hours tracking the latest developments as protesters faced off with police. KREM 2's Connor McEvoy was a major part of that coverage as he reported on the ground for much of the evening. He's joining us tonight right now. And Connor, you got on the scene last night, or yesterday afternoon rather, about 3:30, kind of when that initial protest took place. Can you walk us through what the scene was like at that point?
Yeah, well, when I got there at 3:30, it was relatively quiet. It seemed, pretty peaceful overall. There was a bunch of people outside of a bus that it was believed that the two gentlemen that we found out were detained would be transported to Tacoma, and it was pretty peaceful overall for the first little bit. And then since then, around 7 o'clock or so, there was a large group that came, and that was about a couple hundred people, and that was when a lot of police units responded. It was the Spokane Police, Spokane Sheriff's Office, as well as Spokane SWAT were all on scene right about 7 o'clock or so.
Going back to that initial protest, it seems like there was a moment where protesters blocked maybe a back entrance of that ICE facility, and that's when things seemed to elevate a bit in terms of the tensions between the ICE personnel and the people that are protesting.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it was just about 5:30 or so, I want to say. That was when things got a little heated when it came to, there was the gate was opening, and there were several people that were, definitely expressing their opposition towards that agency, and just as far as everything was going, there was some yelling going on, and there was a big crowd of people that were swarming that area, and that was when police were called to respond.
All right, at some point, police arrive en masse at the scene. Can you talk about kind of how that changed the dynamic and how things shifted at that point?
Well, right when police responded, that was when more people showed up, so it was definitely it kind of came to a standstill, and there were definitely people screaming over each other. I saw a lot of altercations between police and people protesting, at the scene. People were both police and protesters were yelling back and forth at each other around that time. Like I said, when police started responding, that was when more people responded. It became a much larger altercation, and that was at that point there was a police officer on the intercom that was basically saying that this was an unlawful assembly, and that people were warned that by staying here it's illegal and that they have the risk of being arrested. And that was when they also deployed several amounts of smoke in the area to kind of back people away from that ICE office. And
then quickly, we'll get these two questions as quickly as possible. We now know about 30 people, more than 30 people arrested in connection with this protest yesterday. You were there and witnessed several of them. Were the folks arrested the ones that were right in front of police, or how would you describe that?
It's safe to say they were right in front of police, quite a large majority of them. When it came to verbal altercations that came down, there was some scuffling going on, and that did lead to seeing several people that were on the ground handcuffed being arrested, and including somebody I saw dragged in the street that was arrested. And it was several from what I saw, and then we learned later from Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall that it was 30 or so more.
And then last question, Connor, appreciate your time. The curfew last night issued by the mayor, that went into effect at 9:30. You were down there at that time. Was there any notable shift from before the curfew and then after the curfew went into effect?
Well, not initially. It was 9:30 when it started, and there was still quite a decent-sized crowd for about an hour or so, and it slowly was deteriorating after that. But there's still, by the time things had the dust sort of had settled, so to speak, there was quite a few people that did stay and remain, and we didn't really see a lot of response as far as how police were handling the situation after that curfew. But we were down there a couple hours after that happened, and there were still people in the area, but the crowd was slowly deteriorating about an hour, I'd say, after the curfew.
All right, KREM 2's Connor McEvoy, appreciate your time. Connor, thank you very much.
Thank you.